All right, well, we're back again here.
And today, this time on this video, I'd like to talk a little bit about whether our life is headed more in the direction of freedom or in the direction of dependence. And so let's introduce ourselves to begin with.
Yeah.
I'm Non-Monogamous Mark. I'm the co-founder and executive director of Non-Monogamous Lifestyles Association. And one of the things I learned in my life when I took and went from a 27-year monogamous relationship to having an open marriage is that it gave me a new sense of freedom. And a lot of people, though, they start practicing ethical and consensual non-monogamy, but they don't make any other changes in their life. And I've literally used that as the first step in my personal liberation and moving my life to freedom. And so, how about you? Let's introduce yourself.
I am Badass Cat, director of the Relationship Revolution. And through this experience, through ending my 25-year marriage and moving into becoming ethical and consensually non-monogamous, there's been a lot of changes in my life from dependency to freedom. But I'd also like to say that Mark and I are the dynamic duo. And the life that we have created has risen us to a place that most people truly dream of. And this level of freedom and connection, we bring to you as an example of what you can reach.
And it's really what we do is we just simply are modeling for other people. And we certainly don't want you to feel like you've got to be us by any means. Because we want you to be the best and most authentic you.
That's right.
But we have modeled that being the best and most authentic us in creating our life instead of just living a life on default.
That's right.
Okay.
So today we're going to talk about the 10 steps to create the life of your dreams. And we'll be sharing a little bit about our journey to create the life of our dreams. And then we'll share towards the end about how we can help you to create the life of your dreams.
And so to start out with, well, first of all, in creating the life of your dreams, the things that we find is important is really focusing on your health, focusing on money, sex, and where does the relationship revolution connect in with all that?
Well, the first piece of the relationship revolution is that first and foremost, you have a relationship with yourself. And in having a relationship with yourself, you are taking care of your health. You are taking care of your money and your financial status to ensure that you can take care of your health. And you are taking care of sex and personal relationships. Because everything in your life starts with who you are and who we are and how we interact with each other. But we interact with our health, we interact with money, and we interact with sex and relationships.
And as we're going to talk about here in a moment, going back to this idea of freedom and dependence, those relationships are critical.
They are.
In helping us to decide whether we're heading in whether we're dependent or whether we're free or whether we're heading in dependence and heading in freedom. Because, with your health, like me, before I turned my health around, I was hanging out with a bunch of motorcyclists.
Yeah.
And they were all, I had done this for 20 years, and they were all getting fat just like me.
Yeah.
And so I switched that and started hanging out. And yes, that meant that I had to change friends. And there's nothing wrong with those people that I used to hang out with. They're really wonderful people. But I didn't want to allow their dependence and their decline in their health to dictate who I am.
Right.
But that's exactly what I was doing. And that became my identity. I'm a motorcyclist and I hang out with these cool guys who got beautiful bikes and, and that became my identity.
Yeah.
And I had to change that, you see.
That's right.
And so that's what, the relationships, whether it be health, same thing with money. I made some good money in my past, and the guys I hung out with, they made decent money, they're professional people and what have you. College-educated people like myself, because I enjoy hanging out with educated people.
Sure.
But yet still, financially, when it comes to money, they weren't moving in the area of freedom. They were just trading their time for money And
right.
they were going to do that for the rest of their life. And then finally there will come a time that they may be able to retire.
Yeah.
And then most of the people that I've ever seen and known retire, they'll maybe live it up in retirement years for about 2 years before then they find out that, I just really don't have the money or I don't have the health.
Yeah, the energy.
The energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they settle in to a very monotonous
And
life.
you know what they do? What they have, they're fun.
Yeah.
Oh, I love gardening.
Oh, yeah. And there's nothing wrong with gardening, but...
Absolutely, there's nothing wrong with it.
Is it your only thing?
I'd much rather be out on a bicycle ride on a nice sunny day than in my garden.
Yeah.
I'd much rather be having sex on a beautiful day or a rainy day than to be gardening or whatever I may be interested in doing, I mean, guys will tinker in their garage and tinker on my best friend that I used to have in Seattle, he spent all of his time and money on cars. Yeah. And those are wonderful.
And those are great things, but
it didn't do anything towards his freedom, though.
That's right.
And it wasn't contributing to his health.
No.
It was draining his money. Okay.
And wasn't having sex.
Well,
at least not with the car.
That's right. He was married, but, sex hadn't been good for a long time.
Right, which tends to happen too.
And so, why don't you go ahead and explain what we got going on here?
All right. So, on the top we have freedom, and on the bottom we have dependence. And we have these arrows which are pointing in various trajectories. And down here we have a -3, -2, -1. 0 is kind of your baseline. You're not really going up or down. You're just kind of
going nowhere.
Flatlined. You're going nowhere. You're flatlined. And then we have our trajectory starting to go up. So we have a 1, 2, and a 3.
I used to call this you're dead and just waiting for your body to catch up.
Yeah. Well, almost, but you're flatlining even though you're alive.
Yeah.
Which means you're not thriving.
You're just not living.
You're just not
living. I used to think going out on the motorcycle was really living,
right?
But it's not creating a life.
No, it's not creating a life.
It's just
really
existing.
Just existing and surviving. And what we want is thriving. We want a thriving, freedom-filled, exciting life. So, in some areas, like we've talked about with health, that has to do with our food choices. It has to do with our weight. It has to do with our energy. And I know from my own experience, when I was married, I weighed 70 pounds more than I do today. And that had huge impacts on me in many ways. It had impacts on my body functions, where my cholesterol was up. I had joint issues. I was much older at late 30s than I was in my mid to late 40s after I started changing my trajectory. And my food choices were very much in the dependence area when I was married.
We're going to get to that.
Okay.
But first I'm going to just jump in here because we're really talking about here, we want to talk and teach about 10 steps to create freedom in your life with your health, your money, and your sex, and the relationships then that you need in order to create that freedom. And so those 10 steps, we're going to get to that in the next video. Okay, not this video, but that's just a little teaser for our audience.
All right,
so coming back to this video then, because we want to take and really help our audience to think about their life as we look at our life.
That's
okay, because we've got the decade coming ahead of us that's the roaring 20s, and I'm very excited about that. And I want it to be a roaring 20s for you. When you get to the year 2029, and you're looking back, I want you to be able to look back on that decade and be just like say, "Woohoo! That was so good!"
Yeah.
Instead of looking back and saying, "I'm 10 years older."
Yeah. Where did the time go?
It just goes faster and faster, and where did it go?
Yeah.
And so we're going to use then our own experience here, because we've been together now 6 years.
Yeah.
Okay? And so let's go back 6 years.
Okay.
And then project forward for the next 4 years,
4 years.
as to where you were 6 years ago before we met. Because my life, I had already started to create my life.
Right.
I had already started to turn my life around with my health, with money, with sex. Now, I had a long ways to go with the money part of it, okay? I was still really working on that because I was working more on my health and my sex, but then now I'm working more on the money. You can only really work on one area focused at a time.
Yeah.
You can't try to do it all at one time. And so, and I, 10 years ago, I was making really good money, you know, so I didn't have the issues at that point. I didn't lose, I hadn't lost my $3 million yet, you know. But let's go back then and just talk about these, your health, money, and sex. Now, 6 years ago, where was your, just describe your identity. And let me grab the pen here, because what we want to do is your reality. Okay? You see, because we sometimes have a hard time at like swallowing this.
Yeah.
This is a hard pill to swallow for some people. But we do create our reality.
We do.
Now, when I lost $3 million and I was broke and in my 50s, and I said, it's not my fault. I did everything right. Okay? And the thing is, then I kept swallowing that pill and saying, it's not my fault.
Right.
And not thinking that I was creating that reality. But I created that reality.
Right.
And I won't, that's in other stories and so forth, but that's a hard pill for many of us to swallow.
Right.
So let's go back then. Talk to us about your reality 6 years ago.
6 years ago. So 6 years ago, I was ending a 25-year marriage that was not a happy marriage overall. It was an unhealthy marriage, I'll say that. And unhealthy in many ways.
Let me interrupt real quick.
Yeah.
Speaking of unhealthy, both of our exes did not live healthy lives.
No.
Okay. And are they living healthy lives today?
They're not, because they're not living anymore.
Neither one of us.
Neither one of us.
My ex didn't live to see 60.
And my ex didn't live to see 50.
Yeah. And so that's one of this. I'm so excited about my life. I want to live another 50 years. That's like a whole life for when you're talking about adult years. You know, if you start your adult life when you're in your 20s, to live another 50 years at this point in my life, that's like living another complete life.
That's right.
And that's I get so excited about that.
I know.
You know?
I know.
And so what was then your reality with other things?
So my reality was I was on a trajectory where I didn't eat very healthy food. So I ate a lot of meat, I ate a lot of dairy, I ate a lot of processed foods. I ate out a lot, so I didn't cook my own
fast
food a lot of fast
How about
food.
breakfast? What did you do for breakfast?
Oh, God, breakfast was eggs and bacon and sausage and pancakes with loads of syrup and butter and I could pack it away. And believe me, I mean, the amount of food that I eat today is a far cry from what I used to eat. I could eat an entire Denny's breakfast slam and then some. And you know, finish it all down to, you know, slopping up the last of the maple syrup. And then I would go on to eat a full lunch and a full dinner every day. And snacks in between, and soda, and milkshakes, and all kinds of healthy, tasty food, but not good for our bodies. And then I didn't exercise. So even walking a block or two was
when we met,
painful.
It was very hard for her to walk up
3 flights of stairs. I moved into an apartment up on the 3rd floor. I had to go up basically 2 big flights of stairs. By the time I got to my front door, I was winded. That's ridiculous. I was in my 40s. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I guess I'm just getting old. Because that's what we're taught, right? We're taught that downhill after 40, it's just the way it is. But is it what we have to expect? No.
And so we're going to go into really quantifying some things here.
Yeah.
But this is the end of part 1, and we're actually, it looks like with the way the timeline's going here, we're going to do the 3-part video on here. So I hope that you'll go ahead and stay with all 3 videos. We just don't want it to get too long in one video for you. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and then that little bell, make sure you click on it. And if you like the video, give it a thumbs up. If you don't like it, we want that feedback as well. Yeah. And tell us in the comments below whether you think that your life is headed more in the direction of dependence or the direction of freedom, because then we're going to get real specific about what all this means and heading a life into dependence and freedom and the relationships and what our relationships have to do with all that. And we're going to get into that, dig into that then here at this next video. And so until then, go ahead and go down to the description box and click on that link to subscribe to the newsletter, the email list, and thanks a lot.
We'll see you next time.